losing position into a win without pretending you're not losing. There's a special kind of pain in realizing you're behind, not a little late to the meeting behind. I mean, the scoreboard is unkind, the options feel narrower by the hour, and everyone you trusted to have a plan is suddenly very interested in optimism quotes. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Most losing positions don't kill you. What kills you is the story you start telling when you're losing, because the story determines the next move. And the next move is the only thing that matters. So let's talk about how a losing position becomes a win using a few too smart for LinkedIn theories, but in a tone that still lets you breathe. 1. First, stop negotiating with reality. When people are losing, they often do one of two things. Deny the loss, so they can keep doing what caused it. Catastrophize the loss, so they can avoid responsibility. Both are emotional strategies disguised as strategy. A more useful frame is calibration, what's true right now, even if I hate it. This is where prospect theory quietly runs the show. When losses loom, humans become risk-seeking in dumb ways. We swing for miracle solutions, because the emotional cost of accepting a loss feels bigger than the rational cost of making it worse. Kahneman and Tversky, 1979. So if you want to convert a loss into a win, you need a rule. Never choose a move mainly because it makes you feel better right now. Feeling better is not the same as getting better. 2. Define winning in a way that's still available. In a losing position, people cling to the original definition of winning because changing the definition feels like surrender. But strategy is the art of choosing the game you're actually playing, not the one you wished you were playing. This is where James Carse's idea becomes quietly radical. Some games are finite, win, lose, scoreboard, end, and some are infinite, continue, adapt, persist. Carse, 1986. If you keep trying to win a finite game moment when the environment has shifted into an infinite game world, you'll burn your pieces for the illusion of control. So ask, what counts as a win this week? What counts as a win for the next 100 days? What counts as a win that keeps the game playable? Sometimes winning is not dominate. Sometimes winning is still here, still coherent, still capable. That's not consolation. That's compounding. 3. Switch from symmetry to asymmetry. When you're losing, matching your opponent's strength is the fastest way to keep losing. If they have scale, you don't chase scale. If they have money, you don't chase money. If they have centralized control, you don't build a bigger central committee. You look for asymmetry, a different axis of advantage. Game theory gives this a simple vibe. In competitive settings, you don't win by being better in general. You win by being better where it matters, under the constraints that actually exist. Schelling, 1960. So you ask, where are they strong but slow? Where are they powerful but fragile? Where are they coordinated but predictable? And then you design moves that don't require you to outmuscle them, only to outposition them. Think judo, not boxing. Think editing the terrain, not trying harder. 4. Run the OODA loop faster than your fear. In complex environments, the winner is often the side that updates its beliefs faster. John Boyd's OODA loop, observe, orient, decide, act, is famous for a reason. It's a model of competitive adaptation. The trick isn't decide better and abstract. The trick is reduce the time between reality and response. Most losing positions become unwinnable because people get stuck in observe, doom-scrolling, dashboards, rumors, orient, meetings about meetings, decide, debate disguised as rigor, act, a small action that changes nothing. You don't need more information. You need clean feedback. So set a tempo. Make one move small enough to execute today. Measure one signal that matters. Update your model tomorrow. This is not agility as a corporate poster. It's survival as a method. 5. Build anti-fragile capacity, not fragile plans. When the environment is chaotic, detailed plans become ornate guesses. This is where Taleb's concept of anti-fragility is a sharp tool. Some systems don't merely resist shocks, they gain from disorder by having options, redundancy, and small experiments that create learning. Taleb, 2012. A fragile strategy says, we need the world to behave. An anti-fragile strategy says, we can function even if the world refuses. Practical translation. Replace one big bet with many small bets. Replace single points of failure with redundant pathways. Replace persuasion campaigns with self-reinforcing incentives. In human terms, don't ask for trust when trust is scarce. Build structures that work even with low trust. 6. Control the narrative by controlling the incentives. Here's the part people miss. Narratives don't win because they're true. They win because they're useful. A narrative is useful when it aligns incentives, when people can coordinate around it without needing perfect agreement. Schelling called this focal points. In uncertain coordination problems, groups converge on signals that are salient, simple, and shared even if they're arbitrary. Schelling, 1960. So the question becomes, what story can diverse people act on without debating metaphysics? What story makes cooperation the default? What story reduces the cost of participation? This is why we must all be unified usually fails. It demands too much internal alignment. A better story is modular. Here's the smallest helpful action you can take. Here's how to support without becoming a target. Here's how to contribute without asking permission. That's how movements, markets, and communities scale, not by purity, by low-friction coordination. 7. Use constraints as a design brief, not a prison. Losing positions feel like suffocation because constraints become visible. But constraints are also the sharpest creative tool. In design theory, constraints reduce the solution space, but they also make good solutions more discoverable, because you're no longer seduced by everything, Simon, 1996. So instead of, how do we get back to the old normal? Ask, given the constraints, what's the best move that's still legal? What can be decentralized? What can be made self-sustaining? What can be made small enough to survive? This is the quiet power of tactical moves, not loud, not heroic, just relentlessly feasible. 8. The paradox. Winning starts when you stop trying to look like a winner. In many real-world crises, the kind you can feel in the air, the kind that leaks into every conversation without being named, people confuse two goals: to win, to be seen as winning. Trying to look like you're winning leads to brittle PR, over-promising, scapegoating, and performative confidence. Trying to actually win looks different. It admits uncertainty. It invests in resilience. It avoids irreversible commitments. It makes room for learning. It creates options. You don't reverse a losing position with bravado. You reverse it by building a system that can take the next hit and still function. That's the only flex that matters. A simple operating model for turning the tide. If you want something you can copy into a notes app, name the loss, no euphemisms. Redefine the win, still available, still meaningful. Choose asymmetry, stop mirroring strength. Shorten feedback loops, OODA, but humane. Anti-fragile your system, options, predictions. Coordinate with focal points, simple signals, low friction. Ship small, survivable moves, constraints as design brief. Repeat until the position is no longer lost, just unfolding, because that's what a comeback really is. Not a moment, a method.